I've watched the other part that's a marvel for me to see is within CultureWorks, having it become a real, true community-driven process. Denise Johnson has agreed to sort of take, up until she decided to do that, it was just an extension of one person's thesis project, you know, and now it's a community saying, well, I got this, and watching the opportunity for me to step back and let leadership come forward is another sort of soul-feeding thing. There's more. That's enough, I guess.
What do you think is your biggest challenge?
Stay awake. My biggest challenge?
Yeah.
That's interesting. Right now, everything is, I call it a three-dimensional puzzle, and it's all in my head, all of the moving parts from all of the stakeholder conversations and all of the community conversations and all of the direction and coaxing of those floating pieces, puzzles, trying to get them to form themselves in something that, and they're quite a weakness. With Denise coming on board, and we've created an art maker group, skilled art makers that we found in West Baltimore, the hope of that thing is that it becomes an independent art making group that decides to do art wherever they want to do art, with working with community. So that's a process and another part of the three-dimensional puzzle. It's just the management, the direction of that. Like I said, it's an asset, and it's also the weakness of it. I've got to get that three-dimensional puzzle into task action plan with people running parts of it and doing it. Parks and People Foundation are now, that puzzle is now self-generating. They are now resourcing through their own programs art and culture and the regreening of West Baltimore. That initiative actually is moving physical space with art and culture as a central part of that movement. That's another unheard of thing. That's coming into play. The art makers are starting to understand their role and responsibility and tasking out for themselves how to relate to that opportunity, that initiative. Like I said, it's just getting these pieces functioning on their own within a very short period of time so that it's a worthwhile experience and outcome for them with the festival.
So how do you think the festival will impact Baltimore after it's gone?
I'll tell you what Bill Backstrom from PNC Bank, the community liaison for the bank, said when this first loomed up. He said this changes everything. This changes the perception of how the community sees themselves and how others see the community. And I really believe that. This changes everything. What we will be left with after the festival is going to be a very interesting dynamic of art and culture and community development and stakeholder participation around art and culture. That's unheard of.
And how do you think Roots will be different?
That's an interesting question, too. One in which I hope they are asking themselves, and one in which I hope they see their future, too. I think this one event, this coming together, this with the relationship of RSC, the development of art and culture and community, alternate roots, seeing how important they are to the process of creating new, is that we are about to create a cultural model for rethinking about how communities deal with urban environments, how communities deal with organizing themselves. It's going to change Roots, it's going to change CultureWorks, it's going to change the community. It's a changing agent. All of this would not be possible if it were not for alternate roots. The challenge to alternate roots and coming to West Baltimore is that they lead something, that this changes everything. The relationship of how West Baltimore and alternate roots carry through the festival. I see it continuing. I see it, as Bob Leonard said, out of Resources for Social Change. There's a possibility of creating a laboratory for art and culture and community. And I think we are creating that model. Whether Roots wants to accept that and deal with it and grow through it, that's something they have to decide. But the evidence of the direction of where we all should go is there. That's how I see it.
Don't forget, listeners, June 22nd through the 26th, Baltimore, Maryland, Roots Fest 2011.